Morning, everyone, and thanks so much for coming. Let's start with some simple facts. As Minority Leader, I am not going to engage in the next, or during the next 2 years, in partisanship or partisan politics just for the sake of partisan politics. I will not do it. I can tell you I also am not going to be painted with a brush, a Republican brush, based on the tweets or some of the conduct that's coming out of the White House. I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's policy-driven. And my concern is that some of the conduct coming out of the White House and from our president is energizing the Democratic base, and I'm not going to be part of that. And I didn't spend this much time in Republican politics to be defined by tweets that insult people or a demeanor sometimes that, in my judgment, doesn't reflect the best of the Republican Party. So, I'm going to start today by talking to reasonable and rational people in this state, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents. So today, I begin my tour to find those rational and reasonable people. But we need to address some of the policies that the new governor has discussed in his opening remarks during his inauguration. The governor has indicated that he wanted to fully fund the school formula. He wanted to fully fund the pension and mentioned nothing about any reforms. No mention of changing or reforms to health benefits. The governor, Governor Murphy, has promised free county college tuition, universal pre-K, higher education spending, and fixing New Jersey transit, which to me is a priority, but also would require a lot of money. The governor has not agreed to a 2% arbitration cap to hold the line on municipal budgets, and the governor has actually criticized some bipartisan legislation that myself and Speaker Prieto came up with to encourage and incentivize Amazon to relocate in New Jersey. And apparently, today I learned that we are in the top 20. So let me start by discussing some of these proposals because our office has come to a conclusion that these proposals would cost between $5 and $7 billion. Now, we know our budget is somewhere between $34 and $35 billion. So here's my question to the new administration. Even though some of your proposals are really good ideas, we need to know where the money's coming from. We need to know how you're going to pay for that. It's actually the taxpayers of New Jersey need to know where the money's coming from. How many new taxes? How many new fees? Who is going to pay? How much are they going to pay? And can we afford to do these programs? It's only fair that we address both sides of that equation, the policy side, the new program side, and the cost side. Now, the governor said at the beginning of his inauguration speech that I have your back. We, as the Republican minority, also have your back. But we also have the back of the taxpayers. And we are going to work with this governor. We're going to do that in a direct, sincere, and serious way. But we simply can't have promises that we cannot afford. So we're willing to sit down with this governor, decide what are the priorities and what are the costs. And actually, we look forward to doing that. So today is day one of us reaching across the aisle and saying, as the minority, you mentioned bipartisanship. We're here, we're ready to talk about it, we're willing to negotiate, and we're willing to be supportive. But we need to know what will the impact be on the taxpayers.
As conference leader in our caucus, I'm charged with presenting the legislation that will come before us to the members of our caucus for consideration. I was encouraged by listening to Governor Murphy when he stated that he was going to move forward in a bipartisan basis. I can tell you that, like the leader, I am open to discussions with the Democrat leadership team on the major legislative policies that will come before our body. I think that when you look at these things, and the leader touched upon a few of them, New Jersey Transit, there will be more that unites us than divides us. We are all interested in protecting the environment. We're all looking for a better education for the students in New Jersey. I am sure we all oppose discrimination, and we certainly are all looking for a more affordable New Jersey. We heard a lot of the lofty policies that Governor Murphy set forth. But what concerned me is we didn't hear about how and what his proposal would be to fix the pension crisis. Where are the reforms to the pension and health care system? Will there be a cap on sick and vacation time payouts to avoid these so-called boat checks? Will we introduce the legislation that promotes shared services and encourages mergers in duplicative municipal services? Many of those bills are bipartisan bills. Some are introduced by Democrats, some are introduced by Republicans. I look forward to working with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to begin to fashion a solution to many of these issues. I hope that they will take us up on this offer, because I have seen during my time in Trenton, and I think a lot of you have recognized it as well, that some of the best policy that we have seen enacted and created was done on a bipartisan basis. The 2% property tax cap is one of them. So if we can move in that direction, we certainly look forward to moving in that direction, and we will cooperate to make sure that we are here to protect the residents of the state of New Jersey, because as you all know, right now New Jersey is one of the most unaffordable states in the nation, and we cannot afford to allow any more burdens placed on the backs of our taxpayers.
You know, I just want to join my colleagues in delivering the message that we are willing to work on a bipartisan basis, and we have. Our history shows that we've done that. Obviously, we've been in the minority party since '01, and we've done that. Under Chris Christie, we had a different, almost I would call it protection for our taxpayers, which was the veto pen, which is now no longer there. But we are here to work to help to protect our taxpayers. So one, as Assemblyman Bramnick and Assemblyman Bucco spoke about, some of these things that we're talking about today, we've already have legislation that has been moving through the legislature. One of the bills, as Assemblyman Bucco spoke about, is the sick leave payout bill, which I have had in the legislature since 2010. Now, those of you who may have seen Governor Christie, the interview with Michael Aaron, he admitted that he should have accepted the $15,000 cap on the payouts and did not, and pushed for an absolute limit of zero. But we're willing to work on both sides of the aisle. This is a policy that is grossly unfair to the taxpayers. That doesn't occur in the private sector. It occurs only in the public sector. And when the public is aware of the fact they're being paid out in current dollars for hours that were accumulated 35, 40 years ago with no record keeping, they're appalled by that. And twice in the spring, I brought up the bill in our chambers for passage, and both times the Democratic Party agreed that it was an important piece of legislation that would help across the board, across the state, and agreed to work with us on this. So I say, let's get this working again. We have the bill. It's it's already been pre-filed. Let's work on that. The other thing is the interest arbitration cap. Unfortunately, Governor Murphy, no longer elect, Governor Murphy, has failed to address this. This is one of the policies that's actually been very, very helpful. And when we hear from our mayors and from our leaders in our district what has helped them to maintain within that 2% cap, one of the things that's really been important is the interest arbitration cap. And so what we say is, let's make that permanent. It has been a topic that has been avoided. We haven't heard it from our new governor. There's been no discussion. We're going to wait for the report to come out. And as you heard from Declan O'Scanlan, who was in on the report is very clear. This has been helpful. But on the ground, we've heard from our mayors, again, that it has been incredibly helpful. And the third point is, you know, the nurse in the legislature and in looking at healthcare costs, and, you know, and healthcare is one of the driving forces that is really pushing up our budget. We already know that we have a bipartisan commission headed by Democrat Tom Byrne and a Republican Tom Healy that have made recommendations. Those recommendations include changing the benefits for the school teacher, the people in the school employees, and bring them down to a gold standard of healthcare, and bring them down from a platinum standard. This would save us lots of money. So these are three reasonable pieces of legislation that we have worked on in a bipartisan manner that would directly and effectively impact our constituents, and that's what we're looking to do. We are, the three of us are the leaders of the Republican caucus in the Assembly. We work on a bipartisan manner. Those of you who already know us know we do this. You know, when we get a very good piece of legislation, we look for bipartisan people to go on the legislation with us. So come to us, work with us, let's do this, and let's do this for the taxpayers. You know, we've heard a lot of good things already. We have the equal pay that came out. I'm a woman. We want women to have equal pay to men, obviously. That's, you know, a disclosure of the gifts. That's important. We already do that. We do that in our jobs. But let's work in a bipartisan manner to get these things done that we've already begun to work on. They can listen to us, and we will listen to them to work together to do what we can for the taxpayers of the state of New Jersey.